everyone, this is Henny Espinosa with Just Wish Foundation. Today we are joined by Gabriella Wong, whose tech nonprofit organization AccesSOS is making emergency help possible. And her vision is communication access for all. Thanks for joining us on Just Wish Foundation, Gabriella.
Henny, so nice to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation to
We're,
speak with you all and share about our story.
we're excited to hear about it. So, Gabriella, tell us a little bit about your background. I understand that both of your parents are deaf, right? What was it like for you growing up, especially when it comes to communicating with them?
Yeah, so both my parents are deaf. Growing up, I thought everything was completely normal.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until we communicate via sign language, grew up, that was my very first language, learned sign language. And then I landed in school and the teacher was talking. And I just knew how to sign. And the teacher was like, how am I going to communicate with this kid? And that's when I realized, wow, the world communicates in a completely different language and leaves out people like my parents. And so another example is I had to go through speech therapy to learn how to speak. And I was left out a lot, especially on the playground as a kid, because my peers, they would go to the movie theater and they would talk about the latest movie they watched. And I would be like, oh, I wasn't able to go to the movie theater because my parents tried to take me and they don't have closed captioning. So my parents were like, why are we going to sit through a movie where we're just watching people's mouths just move and we have no idea what they're talking about? So even at the playground, I couldn't talk about the latest pop culture because I wasn't included in that world.
So you were exposed at a young age, exactly like what you said, how it wasn't inclusive. It wasn't, some, sectors in the community were not really given the same access to, whatever the rest of the community had access to. Growing up, Gabriella, did you have concerns as well when it comes to, were you concerned about your parents' like well-being and all that? Did you grow up with that kind of, feeling?
I go through that almost every day. So an example is when emergency alerts are done via audio. So a smoke alarm, an announcement on a train platform, even something as simple as when my family and we would travel to a hotel. If my parents were in a separate room, we would try to knock on the door and they have no idea that we're knocking on the door. So things that aren't accommodating and only alert via audio, I get so worried that my parents don't get that message and they're just sitting there and they don't realize there's an emergency going on.
Wow. Well, speaking of emergencies, tell us about that time that your father got into a car accident and he texted you to call 911. So this you got, right? What was going through your head when you were at that moment when you got your father's text?
When I got my father's text, I was frantic. I was like, are you okay? Are you bleeding? My mind just went to the worst case scenario. I was like, are you alert? Are you bleeding? What's going on? I call 911 and I'm verbally talking to 911 as my dad is texting me. And I'm talking on the phone with them and they're asking me, where is your dad? And I'm texting my dad like, are you okay? Where are you? And my dad's like, I don't know where I am. And just that fragmentation of not even knowing where my dad was, envisioning that he was bloody, that something was wrong, not being there on scene, and the fact that I couldn't get him that help because he didn't know where he was located. Just that going through not being able to go directly to 911, where my dad had to go through me, where I wasn't on scene, was just heartbreaking, and I was frantic.
Yeah, of course. Sometimes with 911, it's in situations like that, it could just be a matter of seconds, right? Seconds, every second matters in situations like that. So, well, I can just imagine what you were going through at that time. But your fear that your father would not be able to reach you in time, it came true, right? In times of emergency, it came true when he had gallbladder
Exactly.
rupture. Take us back to that moment when your father couldn't get the help he needed right away.
Yeah. So my father was experiencing gallbladder pain. He was at his school. He was feeling pain. He decided to leave school early. He went home. He was home alone because my mom was at work. I wasn't at home. And he realized, okay, I'm feeling really faint. I need to reach out for help. And he was too faint to go to a neighbor. He was too faint to go to a video relay machine. His first instinct, because my family and I, we text each other every day. His first instinct was to text me and my mom to call 911 for him. But my mom's at work. I'm not checking my phone. And hours later, when we found out, and my dad ended up at the hospital, just an immense sense of guilt that I wasn't there for my dad when he needed me the most. Luckily, my dad was able to make it to the emergency room, but just those critical minutes of not being able to get there quicker, they had to do surgery. It wasn't a laparoscopic surgery. They had to remove the whole thing. It was an incredibly painful process for him, and his healing time took longer because he couldn't get to the emergency room quicker.
So these are when you talk about Gabrielle, I could feel your pain. I could feel your love for your family, and I was thinking when I read your story, I think it was out of really love and concern for your family that really drove you to take action, because you experienced all of these, personally, you've experienced all of these family emergencies, and you realize that, hey, there's something that's greatly lacking in the system. And is your love for your dad. It is your love for your family that I feel fueled this passion of yours to really put it into action. So tell us about that. What are the realizations that you get from these personal experiences, and how did you translate it into action so other people don't have to go through what you guys did?
Absolutely. Those two emergencies that happened to my family, as you said, a deep love for my family and a deep love for my community. I'm a child of deaf adults at CODA, and it is so not fair that because they're not able to hear, they're not able to speak, that they don't have access to emergency services like their neighbors do. They pay the same amount of tax dollars as their neighbors, but they don't have this quick, easy access to emergency services. And I did research. I was like, why couldn't my dad text 911 for help? And at that time, text to 911 was not available in our home location. And so I was like, what can we do to make this happen? And that's when I realized that the 911 system was built in the 60s and 70s on really old infrastructure. And to upgrade that system, as we're all using cell phones and texting, takes a lot of money and resources. And I realized, okay, who's fixing this problem? And I didn't really see any resources out there that were focused on the communities that are deaf, the communities that don't speak English, the communities that may deal with an abuser close by. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to take action, and I'm going to do this right now. And so that's why AccesSOS was started.
What year was this?
This was right before the pandemic. I quit my job in 2019 and quit my job and just went in, lived off my savings, and we started to operate, and I got my first grant in 2020. And then from there, just hit the ground running.
Wow. And Gabriella, when I was looking at the figures, I was like, wow, there is such a big need for this, because there are 37 million Americans right now that can't hear or speak out loud, right? There's such a great need to make communication accessible. So tell us about AccesSOS. What does it do? What are its features? And why is it so essential, so critical in the community?
So the reason why AccesSOS was started was because there was a gap, as I said before, this gap in reaching emergency services. And we created this free to use mobile web app, and it's designed with our community members in mind. We did a lot of community outreach and met with our community members to get feedback on, like, what are you most comfortable with in communicating with emergency services? What do you think is the best approach? What are you most comfortable with? And what our app does is we automatically grab that location, because some people are in an emergency service away from home and need it, and they don't know where they're located. So we automatically send 911 the emergency location, and with a few clicks of the button, you indicate, do you need medical? Do you need police? Do you need fire? Is someone not feeling well, feeling faint? They can press those buttons, and we quickly translate that text into a 911 phone call for our community members. And we deliver that information to 911 directly.
In real time, right? At scale, and in various languages, I understand, right?
Exactly, in various languages. So we're available in Vietnamese, Arabic, Chinese, and Spanish. And we're integrating more languages as time goes on.
Wow. And of course, obviously, this is very helpful in the immigrant community, right?
Exactly. Wow. Because I've heard a lot of heartbreaking stories very similar to mine, where someone who didn't speak English called 911 and they weren't able to communicate with an English-speaking dispatcher, or maybe they had a really heavy accent. The dispatcher had no idea what kind of help to send or where they were located. And so we want to bridge that gap, not just for the deaf and hard of hearing community members, but also for people who don't communicate in English, so they know that they have this comforting, easy to use, and free resource for them to reach emergency services.
Wow. What kind of feedback have you gotten from the people you've helped, Gabrielle? Have you heard stories of, well, thank you so much for helping save a life? Or have you received those kinds of feedback from the community?
Yeah, community members have definitely given us really good feedback on that this is easy for them to use, that they could use this if they had shaky hands, that they didn't realize how quick it was for them to reach emergency services, that they're thankful that the icons and the app shows up in their language of choice. And so we've been really, really grateful for all our community members that have given us really amazing feedback on our app.
Have you gotten support from, elected officials, from, various sectors in the community? That, because if you think about it, wow, why wasn't this thought about earlier? Why wasn't there some initiatives that, is there more of an effort from the community to adapt this more, spread the word, or to make sure that everyone knows about this?
Yeah, so we've been really fortunate to have partnerships with amazing disability rights organizations. I could name a few: the National Association of the Deaf, TDI, or NINA, the Emergency Number Association, just to name a few. And so we've been really lucky to have these national partnerships with people that really support and bring a coalition of support and partnerships to get the word out about our app.
That's great. So Gabriella, you yourself, your background, when I was reading about it, I was like, wow, this, she's achieved so much. You have your master's in public health from Columbia University. You have managed projects. You've advocating for equal access to education, technology, and healthcare for people with disabilities. You are co-chair of the National Emergency Number Association's Communication Modalities Committee. And you're also, of course, as you said, fluent in American Sign Language. So your background has really prepared you to create AccesSOS. And AccesSOS has also opened doors for you to further make a difference in the lives of people in need. What else do you hope to achieve in your life, Gabriella?
What I really hope to achieve first, and just a number one priority, is communication access for everybody.
Mm.
I hate it when someone is left out, especially someone that comes from a community like my parents that don't have that language access. And so my vision for the future is that it's not just in the United States, but people who travel internationally to visit the United States know that they have that critical lifeline to emergency help, no matter what language they communicate in.
Wow. So you're so inspiring, because I feel like, sometimes when we go through problems, when we go through challenges, the tendency sometimes is just to accept it and move forward. But you turn the stressful moments in your life, your family's life, into something that, so that other people don't have to go through it. So your own family, you can have peace of mind with your parents. I mean, that's something to be proud of, and that's something to be emulated, I think. And so we at Just Wish Foundation, our founder, Mr. Jack, we were just so excited when we heard about your story, and we want to help you. I feel like the community should hear about your work, your good work in the community. And we want to make a monetary donation, and we hope to continue to support you and AccesSOS, because this is a matter of life or death. This is a matter of giving equal access to everyone, to make sure that all lives are valuable, and we appreciate what you do, and we feel just the sky's the limit for you, Gabriella. So good luck. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Henny. Thank you, Just Wish, and thank you, Mr. Jack Wu, for your support. We really could not do this work without partners like you all.
Thank you so much, and more power to AccesSOS. Thank you. Thanks, Gabriella.
Okay. Thank you so much.